It simply goes without saying that this entire world around us, from the frozen tundra to the tropical rainforest, from the vast oceans to the dry deserts, this world that we and so many other living things call home is flourishing with life. Since the beginning of life itself, these organisms have evolved and adapted to survive in any environments they may find themselves in. And all these organisms interact with one another, as well as with other species, for their survival. No action goes undetected, and no organism's effects have been more noticeable than the effects of humans. As the dominant species of the planet, no other organism has achieved higher potential in their survival. The problem with humans is that we seem to claim the world as our own simply by our presence. We ravage the world's resources, we destroy fragile habitats, and so much more. The worldwide population of humans continues to increase at a rate of about 1.1% per year. Now, this may not seem like quite a lot, but do the math, and you'll find that the worldwide population will increase from 7 billion to over 14 billion people, or roughly double in size, in less than 64 years. And will the world be able to sustain this many people? We don't know for sure. But one thing that is for sure is that the rest of the world will be at great risk. Now, issues escalating sounds bad as they currently stand, but by bad I mean that we're currently in the middle of a mass extinction event as I speak. This may sound crazy, but understanding the statistics of a mass extinction event shows that one occurring right now will actually make quite a lot of sense. A mass extinction event is a term used to define the occurrence of at least 50% of the global species on Earth going extinct over a certain period of time, typically over the course of a couple 100,000 years. In Earth's geologic history, there have so far been 5 mass extinction events, with the first one occurring about 450 million years ago, and the last official one taking place about 65 million years ago. From what we can tell about these extinction events, is that a consistent event that occurred were influxes in global temperatures caused by rising or lowering levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. But in the past, these rising levels have been caused by volcanic activity, and these lowering levels have been caused by rising populations of terrestrial plants. But in the present day, these rising levels are caused almost entirely by humans. Now, some could argue that humans are not to blame for this changing climate, but just take into consideration how quickly all this is escalating. Naturally, in the past, during an extinction event, the normal rate of extinction is approximately 1 to 5 species going extinct per year. Now, the present rate of this, as crazy as it may sound, is approximately 10 to 1,500 species extinctions per year, which shows that humans are responsible for causing the current extinction rate to exceed the background rate by nearly 1,000 times. Some examples of species driven more recently to extinction include, but are certainly not limited to, the great auk, the Tasmanian tiger, the golden toad, the Pyrenean ibex, the Caribbean monk seal, and the western black rhinoceros, and there are many to add to this list. Now, how we know that humans are the driving force behind this is proven by our everyday lives, which would not be possible without the Industrial Revolution occurring, which is what I will base this main argument off. In just last year, the year 2014, over 40 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions were released into the atmosphere from industrial plants worldwide, marking 2014 the single year with the all-time highest release of carbon dioxide, as well as on a global scale, the warmest year in recorded history since records were first kept in the 1800s. Now, pollution and climate change aren't the only factors to this extinction event. Another key factor is habitat fragmentation. As I said, the human population continues to increase at a very rapid rate, and in order to satisfy this growing demand for space, more and more habitats are being destroyed for human development, such as shelter, agriculture, and industry. The animals that previously lived in these locations will either be forced to relocate or they may die. And sometimes relocation may not even be in the question because of how widespread human development has become. Now, not as much of this would have been possible without the Industrial Revolution. Up until that point in time, the human population had been kept in check by how much food could be produced by single families, or by how far that food could be distributed. Once the revolution kicked in, the human population began to skyrocket to levels previously deemed impossible to reach. It seems to be that the more people there are on Earth, the less there is of anything else. Now, at this point, I've talked quite a lot about humans' effect on the world. At this point, many of you may not even care still. For those of you who don't care, I'm sure I know what you're thinking. Why should I care? This doesn't affect me whatsoever. But I'm here to explain to you this. You should care, because it does affect you. As I mentioned at the beginning of my speech, the world reacts where even one interaction affects the overall system, and humans are no exception to this rule. We may not realize it, but natural interactions affect us just as much as we affect nature. And if that's not enough to convince you otherwise, let me go back to the current mass extinction. It's pretty clear that this mass extinction is driven almost entirely by humans, but who's to say that we aren't to survive our own extinction event? Humans, like all other species on Earth, have a certain carrying capacity, and once that carrying capacity is reached, our populations will begin to decline. It seems that instead of trying to make the world a better place for our own future, we could be, in a way, priming the pump for our own demise. So what can we do? What should we do? The answer is simple. We must create change. Nature is calling for it, and we must be the ones to answer this call. In order for us to create a better future, we have to be willing to create change. And again, our time is now, to be the spark that this world is in desperate need of. And never be discouraged by thinking that no one person can make a difference. Just remember this. Even a small stone is all it takes to set the whole sea in motion. Thank you.